places. Sometimes what I heard sounded good. Great news, I thought. Fracking provides a clean-burning alternative to coal with a 50-plus year track record of safety, right here in Ohio. Sometimes, though, what I heard sounded really, really bad. Oh no, fracking results in earthquakes and tap water that can be set on fire. With fewer than 10 years of large-scale practice, the long-term consequences of unconventional oil and gas extraction are anybody's guess. The more I listened, the clearer it became. The only constant surrounding horizontal hydraulic fracturing was controversy. So I started asking the people in my life what they knew about fracking. And here, finally, consensus. They all said, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I don't know if it is a good thing or a bad thing. With that, I decided it was time to look into fracking for myself. And luckily, it has never been easier to do your own digging. So one night, a year ago, after my last email check of the day, I Googled fracking in Ohio. And within that first 5 minutes, my curiosity turned to concern, which then became something close to panic, which then, over the next few months, became action. And that is why I am here today, to invite anyone who doesn't feel they know enough about fracking to have an opinion, to please give yourself 5 minutes to do your own digging. That first search will in very short order lead you to your opinion, your side of the debate. And if your curiosity should turn to concern as mine did, don't despair. That is what the Community Bill of Rights is for. It is for us. Now, I am not here to try to convince you that my conclusions will be your conclusions, but I would like to share some of the Google searches that I have found to be the most helpful in the pursuit of my horizontal hydraulic fracturing education. Search number 1, Ohio fracking jobs. The industry has been in our state long enough that real numbers are coming in, not just optimistic projections. Search number 2, is natural gas cleaner than coal? There is a lot of vigorous debate about this bedrock industry assertion. Search number 3, Halliburton loophole. This is a very eye-opening search. It really showcases the absolute unity between the oil and gas industry and the U.S. government. And I think it also makes a very compelling case for the need for many more community rights-based initiatives across this country. This leads very easily to a fourth search option, Ohio injection wells. Despite the acknowledgement that injection wells create earthquakes, the state is expanding this program. I think it is only reasonable to question the wisdom and security of this subterranean waste sequestration tactic, given the obvious structural disturbances and upheavals that earthquakes produce. Can anyone guarantee that this toxic radioactive waste will not one day migrate into our water supply? This question leads to my fifth search suggestion, Ohio fracking regulation. If the Ohio Department of Natural Resources denies a permit request, industry can appeal that decision. However, currently there is no appeal process for the residents of the counties that host unconventional oil and gas drilling, injection wells, or accept toxic radioactive solid waste into their municipal landfills. Again, that is what the Community Bill of Rights is for. It is for us. It inserts us into the conversation that has been for too long just between industry and our state's very accommodating regulatory agencies. It asserts our right to question, debate, and impact outcomes in a meaningful way. It restores our rightful place at the table and reserves our right to say no. After all, what is best for corporations the likes of Halliburton, ExxonMobil, and Chesapeake Energy is not always what is in the best interest for the people of Columbus, Ohio. I also started wondering what over 100 years of hosting fossil fuel industries has meant for Ohio. So I went back to my computer with a few questions. What is the most polluted state in the U.S.? Ohio. The people of Ohio breathe the most toxic air in the nation. What are the most polluted beaches in the U.S.? The Great Lakes. What is the most polluted river in the U.S.? The Ohio River. What does Ohio's economy rank? 41st. However, we are first in something. We are the first state in the U.S. to freeze our renewable energy and energy efficiency standards, despite 6 years of successful implementation and job creation. Perhaps efficiency is seen as the enemy of demand for all our newfound oil and gas. Clearly, we haven't won so many races to the bottom as a result of hamstringing industry with hysterical, overreaching environmental regulation. The answer does not rest with our political parties. From our Republican governor to our Democrat president, the red carpet has been rolled out across the country for the oil and gas industry, except in a few places, which leads me to my final Google search suggestion: U.S. fracking bans. Under this search, you will find lots of cities, states, and even entire countries that have banned outright the practice of horizontal hydraulic fracturing. But in this list, there is one that interests me above all others. I am referring to the resolution passed this year by the City Council of Washington, D.C. that prohibits fracking in the George Washington National Forest due to concerns that such activity has the potential to contaminate drinking water supplies. The 1.1 million acre forest contains headwaters of the Potomac River, which is the sole source of drinking water for the nation's capital. Maybe the Ohio River, sole source of drinking water for millions of Americans, deserves such attentive and wise stewardship too. If the City Council of Washington, D.C. thinks the current practices and techniques of this industry are not yet competent enough to be trusted, and that the regulatory framework is not yet robust and competent enough to be trusted, then maybe we should stop trusting it too. There are alternatives to fossil fuels. There are no alternatives to pure water, clean air, and safe soil. So please, find out what you think about fracking for yourself. Don't settle for not knowing any longer. Within just 5 minutes of looking, your opinion will begin to form. And the longer you look, the stronger it will grow. Strong enough, I hope, to warrant your signature on our petition. And then hopefully on May 2015, your vote in favor of the Columbus Community Bill of Rights. Thanks.
I went to talk to a couple lawmakers with Kelly, and I knew that she would be a perfect person to talk about what's going on with us. She really gets it. Our next speaker is Greg Pace. He is a major organizer with the Columbus Community Bill of Rights. Greg Pace.
Hello, everybody. Welcome here today. I usually have a sign with me when I go to protests, fracking protests, and it's my second favorite sign. I wish I had it here today. I couldn't find it to bring it with me. It says, "Stop lying about fracking." And every protest I go to, I hold this sign up on the street wherever anybody can see it. And my favorite sign is a sign that I saw that somebody else had, and it says, "I research, therefore I am against fracking." And that's absolutely my favorite protest sign that I've seen around the state. It's when fractivists get together and protest against fracking. But my problem is, and I think most of us understand this problem, that with industry, they tend to deceive us a bit and propagandize their issues and what they want to do and what they want to create, what they want to sell, and so forth. And the hydrocarbons industry is by far at least one of the most propagandized industries that I've ever heard of and know about. And of course, 3 years ago, they came to Ohio, and it started with the juggernaut of wells, gas and oil wells in eastern Ohio. They've been saying for years now, and they still say it, their mantra of the industry, whether it's Chesapeake Gas or whether it's the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, Energy in Depth, even the legislature, many of our senators will tell you that there have been no confirmed cases of water contamination from fracking or from gas and oil drilling. And we all who study this a little bit understand that really this can't be true because there are so many anecdotal cases around the country, hundreds of them really, where people have had their water destroyed, and it's been through gas wells. There's no smoking gun when it's 1 or 2,000 or 5,000 feet down when these pollutions occur in water aquifers and so forth. So it's hard to prove. So the industry can still tell them there's no documented cases, proven cases of water contamination through fracking. The last month, the state of Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, which is the equivalent of Ohio's ODNR, the Department of Natural Resources, which has full primacy over our gas and oil wells, they came out with, in Pennsylvania, a document that confirms 243 cases of water contamination since 2008 through gas and oil wells in Pennsylvania. This is incredible. This is what we've been saying all along. And as Kelly has alluded to, the information is beginning to come forth slowly as to how polluting and risky this process is. 243 cases documented, links to each case, whether it's methane poisoning, sometimes water wells ran dry, sometimes it was a temporary water contamination, but a lot of the times, once a well gets polluted, such as in Dimmock, Pennsylvania, if you saw the movie Gasland, there were 22 people's water, home's water, that was destroyed basically forever. This is unfixable. And these were also included in 243 cases in the Department of Environmental Protection's document. One problem that we have here in Columbus, people don't really realize that we're worried about fracking wells in Columbus. They think it's on the east side of the state, in Guernsey County, Carroll County, Belmont County, where there's now over 200 wells now. A lot of them, these big, long, horizontal wells that take 5 to 8 million gallons of water to frack. They think it's all out to the east. And the reason that we're here today in Columbus is because we don't get any of the mineral rights issues here in Columbus because they're not drilling any wells, and the Utica Shale is off to the east side of us. It is out in the countryside mainly where they're doing this. But the problem we have in Columbus is that while they're getting their mineral rights out east, in Guernsey County and so forth, they're making their money out there when the drillers drill and get their gas and oil out of underneath the ground. We are beginning to take the toxic waste all over the state of Columbus. And right now, the Ohio EPA last year authorized a dump, it's called the Integrity Drive drum dump. It's a landfill on the east side of Columbus, right off of I-70, and they authorized to dump drill cuttings, which are radioactive, on this dump. And the problems we've been having over the last year is that not only is there hardly any data to demonstrate how radioactive these drill cuttings are, there's almost no data, we can't find it. The other problem is that we've been trying to deal with the regulatory agencies in the state to determine what type of protocols they're using to test for radioactivity, and any kind of data that they have, whether it's the Ohio EPA, the Department of Health, which used to have primacy over radioactive waste. Now it's the EPA, but mainly Department of Natural Resources, who has primacy over all the oil and gas drilling in the state. They now include the radioactive aspect of most of this drilling waste. But here in Columbus, we're most worried about the drill cuttings that come from the shale, which is naturally radioactive and high in content in uranium and radium. And we're also concerned about the injection wells where millions and millions of gallons, actually barrels, of highly toxic, highly radioactive waste is pumped underground. It leaks, they leak, and we have 13 of them up to the north of us in Morrow County, which put our whole watershed at risk here in Columbus. And of course, companies like Mattel here in Columbus and other companies around the state are trying to find as many locations for more and more injection wells that they can find. We had 178 injection wells in Ohio in 2010 before this big fracking boom started in eastern Ohio. Now we've got over 242 of them permitted. I think we have at least 200 of them that are drilled already. So they're just trying to find these places to dump these millions of barrels of this highly toxic waste. And anywhere they can find it. We could be in our outskirts of Columbus or whatever. But we're mainly worried right now about the drill cuttings because we don't know how radioactive they are. We know that they can spike very high in radioactivity. That's our big concern. One other problem we have is that State Bill 59, the Ohio budget bill last year, deregulated the radioactive content of these drill cuttings. And the budget bill, they actually stuck this language into our 2-year budget bill for the state. They call it beneficial use. And that's how this drum dump on the east side of Columbus can be allowed to dump these drill cuttings on the actual landfill. Now what happened was last year we put up a big stink with this group and got some visibility to what they were actually doing. And we're hoping that that's part of the reason that they decided not to actually dump their cuttings on the landfill there. But what happened was in Barnesville on the east side of Ohio, there's a community that the drilling industry decided to try and take these drill cuttings and try to dump them around the state. And in Barnesville, about 3 months ago, they had a town meeting. They were having a facility that they were creating to dump these drill cuttings at, and everybody just standing room only here at this meeting. And they had the EPA there, they had the Port Authority there, and it was just, they blasted them. They just told them, we do not want this stuff in our town. And so they ended up not doing it there. I don't know how it's going, if they're still going to have this facility there or not, but it stopped. And so we could get it back here. And so this is our concern in Columbus, that we have all this radioactive waste, but we don't know how radioactive it is. We know sometimes it's highly radioactive, and everybody's keeping it kind of a secret as to what this stuff is. That the legislature behind the doors of the State House and the industry has authorized to be able to dump. And so that's why we have our community bill of rights. I've been doing this for 3 years. We've been trying to fight agencies around the state for 3 years, and it's a wall. It's like a wall. Carolyn and I have been into the State House. Carolyn visited every senator about this issue last year. I visited many of them also. They were polite to us, but they still passed the regulations that, of course, the industry wants in this state, and that Governor Kasich wants, because they talk about jobs, but really what they're talking about is somebody's making a lot of money when they drill and get gas and oil, even though it's not a very viably economic way of getting energy. But thank you, and thank you for letting me.